Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. Today we're back with another which is the better investment character for your account. Is it Mydei, the new HP decay kind of style character? Or perhaps is it the Quantum Harmony character, which we already have another one? What is the differences between her and Sparkle? We'll also be touching a little bit on this video for those of you who are interested. We do this every single patch to help players decide where to spend their resources most wisely. And as with all of our better investment videos, I promise you I'll be unbiased. Only right at the end, if you want to know my personal bias, and I'll add in a bit of sprinkles as well, you can check out right at the end of the video. But let's get in first, unbiasedly, with current value. When you are spending your precious resources, you want to know what you are getting out of them right now, current value. Since we teased a bit between Tribbie as well as Sparkle, let's start first things first, talk about a little bit of key differences and what makes Tribbie very unique. Think of her, long story short, if you don't really want to read like wall of text of kit, watch the live stream and stuff like that, think of her as a damage dealing harmony unit like Robin, but has no form of pushing like Sparkle. So who does Tribbie outperform with? She generally outperforms with characters who don't really care too much about taking turns, maybe want to even go slower if there's such a character in future as well. Could be quite interesting to see. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they might release some characters that want to go a bit slower. Who knows? But that is where she really forms a niche. She does a lot of damage from a harmony role. I think they classified her wrongly. She should be like erudition with some sort of buff. Then at least you could work with Hertha and stuff. But that is pretty much a way to summarize how different she is. And she scales with max HP. She gains a lot of HP bonuses as well. So this tiny hero character is going to be massively chongus, might even be one of the highest HP in the entire game. Won't be surprised if Freed can hit 10k plus very easily, and she does damage scaling off of max HP. So that is in the current value of what this character is. On the flip side, to basically understand Mydei's kit, Mydei, however you pronounce it, just think of him as, unfortunately, the best analogy that I have, simply put, is like a Blade 2.0, a much stronger version of Blade, and he has this like immortality state that cannot die, which is really cool. Saps his own life, deals damage, does massive amounts of damage, enters like rage mode and stuff, which gives him a lot of bonuses as well. A very fun adrenaline playstyle that is definitely very exciting. We haven't seen this kind of playstyle in a long time, since like Blade in 1.x, maybe Jingliu in 1.x. So for those of you who joined in Panicani, it might be a little bit unfamiliar, this whole HP decay kind of mechanic, but not to worry, we have more guides on the channel coming up soon to teach you how to play these two characters once the time is right. Now, talking about current value, talking about the two kits and summarizing how they work, it's interesting, but now I want to bring your focus to the 9 teams of Honkai Star Rail. A big bird's eye view for any of us trying to fill up our rosters and deciding where exactly these characters fall in line to help us out in our overall account. Now let's talk about both of them. Tribbie first. You will see here in Fast and Often, even though we mentioned that she doesn't have some sort of push, like action advancing her teammates and stuff, she still scales off with the amount of ultimates that your teammates do, which is really very nice. So characters that can burst very often will take advantage of her passives, which also do additional damage when your allies use ultimate. So it's a little bit here, not the best, not the worst either. If you are looking for characters that want to scale off with action advances, you might be better off running like Sparkle, Robin, and a lot of the other harmony characters. But Tribbie, not too bad. You also have dance like Cone Access, so it's decent too. Other than that, you have good amounts of damage, hyper carry. She buffs a hyper carry-ish kind of character. She does have, like, for example, rest pen for your team. She does good amounts of damage on the side. Skills with HP, so really strong in HP scaling teams, which is why I put her in HP decay, upside down. So normally, HP decay means they want some sort of like HP sapping mechanic and stuff, but this is probably the best in slot buffer for a HP-based team, not because she buffs your team based on the HP that they have and stuff like that, but she does a lot of damage and she suits HP decay teams very well. Those people who are generally chongus in nature, for example like Mydei, for example like Blade, you have your other chongus characters, maybe even Fucc. These teams that have a lot of HP, she falls in those lines. She also does follow-up attacking, so very similar to Robin, just without the action advances, does a lot of the damage that you find in Robin too. So that is where Tribbie really falls in place. Mydei, for example, let's turn our attention to him. He's very clear. you are going to probably play him as a burst hyper carry or even like a secondary DPS if you have someone taking the front rails. For now, he's probably the best in slot in terms of HP DK DPSs, unless you have like a Jingliu 2.0, maybe she gets buffed or something like that, then he could even play a secondary role. Does a lot of damage, has a lot of HP as well, has a taunt inbuilt in his kit, works really well, hyper carry, can, and definitely is the king of HP decay. I wouldn't be surprised with him in the roster. You might see more and more teams that have no sustain at all, just relying on Mydei for himself. I wouldn't even be surprised if you have Mydei, for example, E6, R5 soloing gameplay. You will see a lot more of these kind of footage available because of the immortality that makes him very, very, very strong. So that in the lay of the land, the current value of both of these characters, in my opinion, if you are a newer player into the game, you are looking for a damage dealer, Mydei might not be the most intuitive to run. Generally, my recommendation across the board is HP DK characters for very, very new players still learning the whole mechanics of the game. It can be a bit tricky, it can be a bit daunting to have the HP bar move up, move down. How do you go across it? Might be a bit trickier to play. Generally speaking, support characters, harmony characters go slightly longer way in terms of value for your overall count. If he was a super simple one button press super OP character, like maybe Firefly when she first was released, Akirion is a very clear choice. But here, I think I will tend a little bit more in terms of current value, giving the edge to a character like Tribbie. She just is a little bit stronger, more teams that she can play into, but still I think Mydei is the equivalent of creating a niche right now. Whether that niche is going to be sustained, we will talk about it in the future value section, but that is for the current landscape of gameplay things. Talking about current value in the current landscape is nice, but we want to talk about some sort of alternatives, because hey, if you already have a Rolex watch, do you really need another watch or two watches on one hand? Are you going to wear both in one wrist? Unlikely so. So I'm going to help you save some money if you already have a lot of the better alternatives. Let's talk about the easier one out of the two, which is probably going to be Mydei. Less discussion needed. There are two types of characters that compete with Mydei. One are your HP DK characters like Blade, like Jingliu, playing in the same style of moving their HP up and down. This could capitalize on buffs in the Memory of Chaos, etc, etc. He probably right now is like best in slot by far. It's not even a question anymore. He's definitely clearly the top pick for HP DK teams. These two are they even still characters in the game? Have anyone even played with them recently? Maybe they deserve a buff indeed by Hoyoverse. But those are two competitions for HP DK, clearly best in slot. The other category of things is in the imaginary element. Because he's a DPS character, he instinctively fights with a lot of other DPSs in the game when you are trying to address imaginary weakness breaking. You have solid characters, erudition AoE type characters like Rapper, who does a lot of damage. A lot of us already have imaginary break teams already in the game. So Rapper competes with him in terms of imaginary addressing kind of thing. You also have other imaginary characters that are also quite decently strong, maybe if they get buffed, like Imbibitor Lune. You have, some of us might have single target characters, a free one like Dr. Ratio, and etc, etc. Imaginary is, to be honest, not really an uncommon element. As we knew, like the moment his banner appeared and we saw that he's imaginary, all of us are like, ugh, another imaginary DPS character. But it is what it is. We have to accept that fact. But still, I think he is a really, really strong addition. Offers a little bit of difference. Sadly, he's in a very popular element, much like Lightning really, that Aglier was fulfilling. So that is the thoughts on alternatives for Mydei. In my opinion, element common, but niche that he fulfills, very, very niche. HP decay, immortality kind of like, very solid. I do like it. I do like that they're trying to venture in this kind of berserker playstyle too. Now, on the flip side of things, this is the harder one to talk about. This is the first banner, of course. This is Tribbie. It's a bit trickier because, theoretically speaking, Tribbie fights with a lot of characters in the game. You compete for your even like exact same element, exact same class path here. Quantum Harmony like Sparkle that buffs a lot of crit damage, pushes your team, gives a lot of skill points, but offers not much damage. You have Robin, who pretty much does damage, does follow-ups, does pushing. These probably are the two main competitors to her, but she competes with so many other characters as well. Anyone that buffs, anyone that some sort of improve your team utility, she competes there. But what makes her really strong is that she does a lot of damage and she's very, very chunky. The problem with her, in my opinion, currently in the gamescape, because we're talking about alternatives right now, is the meta is focused mostly on characters like Robin, and even to some extent Sparkle, Sunday, these kind of varieties which help you action advance your entire team, helping you do 0 turn clears, push up your characters so you don't have to care about speed too much. The meta is not shifting yet into teams that want very, very slow or don't care too much about action advances. So if one day we do have a lower priority on action advancing turn orders, which in the turn-based games, turns are theoretically king, so that is the only exception. Or perhaps you're playing to a more counter play style, like with a character, for example, like Yunli, who doesn't really care too much about action advancing, Clara, who doesn't care too much about action advancing, and these kind of units. That's when a Harmony character like Tribbie does tend to outperform, and in that case, even Robin might still be quite good also. So it's very, very tough. It's a very highly contested space, but she does offer best in class HP based damage, scaling off of HP, your team's HP as well, at the same time buffing your team in terms of overall respan. Very flexible character that can fit into most rosters because everyone has max HP, everyone can appreciate additional penetration, and everyone can appreciate additional damage that she provides. Everyone uses ultimate, so she is theoretically a very generic character that is super flexible and fit into a lot of teams. Whether she's best in class in a lot of them, yet to be determined, but she does have a lot of competition. So, long story short, alternatives, I think I'll have to give it slightly, in my opinion, to Mydei. He has a niche, he fulfills that niche, whereas Tribbie fights with a lot of people, in my opinion, but still quite good. It could go either way, it's like more or less the same, but hopefully the analysis on alternatives helps you clarify, like maybe gives you a light bulb or two as well. And of course, if you're finding value in this video so far, you like our way of presenting, we do this every single patch, so just help me like hit the like so you can reach out to more people as well. Don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but let's get on with future value over here. And this is the one that is really critical, because if you are spending your precious resources, knowing Hoyoverse, they are bringing these characters back in like 4 patches, 6 patches, 10 patches, as we talked about in our predictions videos as well. They come back much sooner than otherwise would normally have been recently in times of like 3.x and towards the late part of 2.x. But how well do they scale with time? If they are better in future than now, might as well just pick them out on a rerun, save your resources for characters that you really want, like maybe Casteries, Mydei, and naxyrb and stuff like that. That is my opinions. So, future value. Between the two of them, they both play into interesting tailwinds. Tailwinds meaning you move faster in future, you move better, you look upside, stonks kind of thing. Why? Is because they are both playing into relatively undeveloped markets, undeveloped team compositions. You have Mydei here, who plays in the HP decay, which practically is laughable before the release of Mydei. No one plays it at this point of time, but it is still a style in the game. So that is one tailwind that you can get if Hoyoverse starts to develop HP-based characters, HP scaling, some sort of buffing to HP-based team, decay teams become much more popular, even buffs to older characters like Blade, Luota, Jingliu. All these are very positive tailwinds that might happen in the near term as well, because Hoyoverse already said that they are planning to buff older characters, and a lot of the older characters, a large proportion, like almost 20-30% of the 1.x characters have some sort of HP decay beneficiaries in their aspect, which means Mydei is a strong beneficiary of this buffing thematic as well. That is one. The next thing, let's try to keep it balanced here. Tribbie, in terms of future value, also is really exciting. Hoyoverse never released a character that seemingly competes with everyone and has no purpose. The last time something like this happened, it just brings me nightmares at this point. When Topaz and Nambi was released, people were like, not very useful, she's so niche, never gonna be good. But then she started appreciating with time. When characters, for example, like Robin came out, people were saying like, oh, Ranmei is a better pick and stuff like that. But as and when we know, somehow Harmony characters always come out decently well. Maybe Sparkle is the only one that didn't really have a super powerful upside, but she's mainly used in expensive team compositions like E2 Akirons. So very good for the expensive players or people that spend more money, but generally they all have some sort of use here and there. Tribbie looking very similar. A lot of competition as we talk about in the alternative section, but the future value looks really bright. If you believe that, for example, maybe a character like Casteries might prefer going a bit slower, maybe you are thinking that they're going to have more HP-based counter mechanic kind of characters who don't really care too much about action advancing. In fact, they want to go a little bit slower. Tribbie's entire kit plays into that. Slow, yet strong, slow and steady kind of team composition, counter-based style, whatever team you want to fit in, whether it's your Maybe most of your damage is coming from memo sprites anyway, and you action and advance your memo sprites instead of the character itself. Whatever it is, she looks very interesting. She's very flexible, can be played into virtually any team, and will have some sort of utility. Whereas, to be honest, like Runmei, Robin, they are also really flexible, but where they outperform is really in one or more niches. So I do think clarity for Runway, less certain. We need to see more of the characters that are coming out in future. So for looking at her future value, is very, very foggy right now. What I'll be actually looking out for is Casteris Kit. I'm going to transparently tell you what am I watching when I'm deciding the value of these characters. Casteris. Casteris is going to determine what is the nature of the game moving forward. She is an anniversary-based character, and if she prefers a little bit slower, just remember these words. Tribbie does look a little bit exciting for this character as well. Quantum, so you have a bit more synergies in mono quantum teams if you wanted to. Anaxa also looks quite interesting. At the same time, both Tribbie and Mydei don't mind playing with each other because he has a lot of HP. She benefits from HP-based teams as well. So very exciting. These two characters definitely are future characters, getting better in future. And it's their first rerun. So we talked about it, they will likely come back sooner or later. They won't drag them out super long. Robin came back in like freaking 5 patches for first rerun. So it's really quick. At this point, of course, talking about future value in terms of the meta game state, how the thing is changing is quite useful. But more important than that, what I want to talk about is changing the direction and talking about Hoyoverse as a company. Looking instead of just meta, I want to talk about the trends that Hoyoverse naturally has. Whenever they are into a new planet, whenever they're trying to switch the meta up, how does the game evolve? That's what we're talking about in this section. And I know I haven't ranked a winner for future value. I'll do it together with this section here of who looks a little bit brighter. Generally, when meta changes, it takes a really, really long time to have a new style enter into a game, unless of course you have game breakers that are really, really super OP. Generally, characters that are introduced, we did a lot of analysis in the past of how long it took. The exception to the rule is Akirion, where Akirion came in and changed the game very, very quickly in her arrival. But follow-up teams, break teams, generally take like 6 months or longer in order to fully come into faction, the best in slot team competitions. In my opinion, these two might be introductory characters into a new style that is slowly developing. So you might not see it very clearly right now, but in a couple of weeks time, a couple of patches time, I think it'll be much more clearer to determine whether these two are essential characters in a meta that is forming. That's the potential section in my opinion. Hoyoverse needs to change the direction of the game. They need to introduce new styles, because why? If you just keep playing into the same freaking styles that are currently meta, like break, like for example, your follow-up attacks, debuff Akrons, you're going to get a lot of power creep. So they need to go horizontal in terms of the team progression, touching in like DOT, HP decay and stuff like that to rotate around the clock rather than doubling down too many people in like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock in just one category kind of thing. So it's a good thing that they are trying to rotate the wheel, and we will likely see this slowly form over time. That is potential section. Between the two of them, in my opinion, the one that slightly outperforms is going to be the support character, who's a little bit more flexible. Her future looks a lot more optimistic because there are going to be a lot of team competitions that she can play into, a more upside. Whereas if you have like a piece that is meant to do damage, you are pretty much locking yourself into one particular playstyle right now. So between the two of them, future value, I think Tribbie does look a little bit better based on inference and thought process. Free to play point of view. So this talks about both of them at base copy, base eidolons, nothing at all, no signature using free to play. The winner, of course, is going to be the supportive characters in general because they cost very little to upgrade. They don't really need to use expensive signatures if they wanted to. Relics are much cheaper to farm as well. But Tribbie is probably one of the characters that are a little bit more expensive compared to your other Harmony characters because she does scale a lot with HP. She does scale a lot with crit even. Really, really nice stuff. So she is one of the more hungry for stats Harmony characters in the game because she is a semi-DPS character. Whereas Mydei, on the other hand, is a DPS character in general, and they are a bit more hungry for better stats, hungry for better signature light cones. But because a lot of light cones exist in the game already, but none of them really like truly give like HP characters a bang for their buck. The only other great light cone I believe at this point for HP scaling characters is probably like Blade. If you want like HP scaling stuff. The rest of the light cones, not that great. So I would say in terms of free-to-play value, Mydei offers a little bit less value. You do want to even go for a signature in order to really pop off. But we will talk more about options and opportunities when we dive deeper and analyze into Mydei's kit in a subsequent video. Overall, I think Tribbie, I'll give it to the win for this free-to-play point of view. Both of them are still quite decent, not massively expensive, but that's just something important to know. And for those of you who are sticking around to the end here, thank you so much as well. But now, let me share with you my personal bias between the two of them. Now, the rule of thumb, and to be safe, is always better for a content creator like me, because I'm talking to like people like you guys. I don't know if I throw a stone. Most likely, the better recommendation is to pick up a character like Tribbie, because support characters goes a much longer way. And if this is an investment value video, I have to give you the better return. That's something that's much safer, of least resistance. But to be really, really honest, and if I touch my heart, these two characters, their future value is quite uncertain, and I don't really know where Hoyoverse is planning to bring the game yet. Much more, I think, would be the better recommendation would be for me, if I was a total free-to-play and sitting on the fence, I would probably sit this one out, sit this patch, save it, and look for more information on Casteries, look for more information on the future buff of older characters, and then pull these characters on a rerun, because hey, you know a rerun is going to come in like 6 months approximately for these characters. So if you really like them, their value comes from future value, wait for other team members to come about, and I think you will find it very attractive. But either way, I hope I shared another way of viewing the game, investment value. We do this every single patch, so like, comment, and subscribe if you appreciate this content, and see you guys in one of these two next videos.